Hi, I'm Melissa Muir. Welcome back for another Tool Time Tuesday. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how I remove burrs after I have punched a piece out using a pancake die in the hydraulic press. There are a number of ways to do this. One way suggested by Kevin Potter is to purchase a 3M deburring wheel that works on your polishing lathe. But if you don't have that, as I don't currently, I will use a belt sander and then a medium polishing buff on my buffing wheel. So here's some pieces that I've already used the pancake dies to punch them out. These are all 20 gauge, so the burrs on these are not as prominent or pronounced as some others if I were to use like 22 gauge. However, there is still a little bit of a rough edge, especially when we get into different points. So the first thing that I would need to do on this is to remove these tabs. And to do that, I just use a pair of hand shears. I have a little box here that I keep all of my copper scraps in. Just trim this off a little bit. Kind of rough out my shape as much as possible. You'll see that there's still kind of a little divot there. I will smooth out as I go through the burr removing process. For this particular process, there will be some flying metal pieces, so I highly suggest that you wear safety glasses, perhaps even a face mask and an apron just to kind of keep some of the shavings off of your clothes. So this is the model of belt sander that I use. I purchased this, I believe, through Micromark, but there are similar pieces that are out there from Delta, DeWalt. You can pick up any of the big box stores. I have seen that people have purchased them from Harbor Freight. Again, there I would suggest you maybe look at purchasing something a little better than the Harbor Freight quality. However, I'm certain that some of it will work just fine for you. Like I said, this is kind of a messy process. These are the shavings from just today when I was cleaning off burrs. So it's not super clean. That's the reason I'm suggesting highly that you wear the proper safety equipment. Now, the biggest tip that I can give you on this is do not push very hard on the belt. I am using a 120 grit, which is the finest that I've been able to find. I wish that I could find something like a 220, but 120 works well for me. Let the tool do the work for you. I am going to be positioning my hand in here just lightly and giving it enough pressure that it will allow it to remove the metal. This will get very hot, so I highly suggest that you keep a steel block right by the tool. And then what you can do is once your piece starts to warm up, place it onto the steel block, move it around a little bit, and let the steel absorb the heat that is being generated on your pieces. Another thing too is there is a plate right here. This, if you push your metal right here and you push against the plate, it is going to remove your metal very, very quickly. Whereas if you come up here to the top where there is no plate, it will allow you to get into a little more difficult places, and it will also not move the metal quite as quickly. I like to go slow, really watch what's happening with the metal. You will start to see it starting to shave away kind of quickly, depending on how hard you're pushing. But just stay in control. Again, by not pressing hard, it allows you to keep in control. This is one of the tools that you really need to concentrate and be certain that you're not looking away. So make sure all other distractions are out of the way when you start this process. I'm going to turn this on. At this point, I was able to remove any of the bigger burrs that were on here. I was able to reshape where that tab was, but what it's done is it has left a very rough edge that's right here. And you kind of saw that I came in just like this and allowed it to really get in there to remove that metal. So what I need to do now is just very, very, very lightly go along this edge to knock off kind of that rough edge that it just placed on there. All right, at this point you can kind of see that I've cleaned it up quite a bit, but it is actually still very, very rough here. I also really like this belt sander for getting into smaller, more intricate places. So here you can see on the butterfly we've got a couple different indents, or where we come in to create the shape of the wings and the body. So one of the things that's kind of nice about this is that you can put your piece kind of here on the edge and be able to get into some of those areas just a little bit easier. Again, very, very important that you really watch what you are doing, because this is moving at a quite high rate of speed, and you don't want to catch your fingers in that. Okay, so now you can see all of the different scratches that are left by this machine. Sometimes I am left with rather large burrs that I don't know that I would just tackle with the belt sander itself. So in this case, you can see that we've got a bigger burr right here. And what I do with this is I try to take it off with my hand shears. If that does not work, then I might use a jeweler's saw or some other shearing tool, and then I can come back in and start to reshape this. So the larger the metal, I will try to take off with the shears, and then thinner pieces of metal or smaller burrs, then at that point I can remove that with the belt sander. Now, as I said, Kevin Potter suggests that you use the 3MD burring wheel, and I don't have that, but what I do have is a compressed Scotch-Brite, basically, and this is a medium abrasive, and so it will make quick work of this. But the key to this, just like with the belt sander, you want to let this tool do its job. Don't push hard, don't go too fast, just let it do its job, slow and gentle, and it will give your piece a very nice silky smooth edge. So notice how I hold this piece. I'm supporting it fully with both hands. Again, this is something that you do not want to lose your concentration. Do not look away while you're doing this. Make sure that you are in full control of your piece. So notice again that I'm holding it with both hands. Also notice the angle at which I'm running this. I'm running it so that it just barely hits that rough edge in that burr, which helps to kind of smooth this. You want to take your time, feel it every now and then, and you'll notice that it gets very, very smooth and silky with a nice rounded edge on this. This wheel also takes out smaller surface scratches. So any of those scratch marks that were left from that rougher sanding paper will be removed as well. And if you really need to, you can move this into the surface of your piece and remove surface scratches there as well. You'll see on the one side of the buffing wheel, and maybe you can't really see it in the video, but it's a little bit more squared than the other side, so it just hasn't worn down quite as much with me getting into different groups. But I can use that to my advantage to get into some of these tighter spots, like right here on the butterfly. So notice that I can just kind of take that in, and it will get into those tighter corners and help really knock down that surface texture and the burrs that are left over, or that texture that's left over from the sanding. So like I said, there are a number of ways that you could do this. Again, you can use just a regular hand file and sandpaper, or you can use some of these techniques that make it a lot faster. At first I did start off with hand files, jeweler's saws to remove burrs and any, refining of the shapes. But once I really got into the production of it, it just took way too long. So that's where I pulled in my belt sander and that polishing wheel. Now again, there are other ways. This is just how I happen to do this. Where do you find those polishing wheels? Well, I have them in my shop right now. So you can get a hold of those as well.